It's all about connectivity, not only in the world from a culture standpoint and understanding the cultural forces in which it operates, but also the communities it is trying to serve and how you can really connect with them to customize an experience. I also wrote a book about fatherhood, my journey as a dad, as a gay dad, and at the time, a single gay dad. And the one universal truth that I've heard over and over and over again, no matter what that story is that everybody feels like they're the only one going through it. So by sharing our stories, we're able to show people, regardless of what they're going through, that you're not alone. Literally the third or fourth day, a gay dad wrote on Facebook, "This book just saved my life."
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Good to see you again.
You too. You too.
So since we spoke last, you've had some changes and you're at a new company and you're doing new stuff. And like we discussed, I would love to go back and talk about your book and all the things we talked about before since your shift. But what are you working on now? What's going on?
So what's interesting, new company within the same parent company, which is awesome. Actually, the first time I've ever done that. So it's this really interesting mix of new and fresh and innovative, yet familiar, comfortable, know a lot of people. I've never had that combination before. It's awesome. So I'm really able to focus on innovation, next generation, what's the future of marketing and marketing communications, while being in an environment where I know people, they trust me, they let me do my thing, which is awesome. So I'm creating a whole new model and framework for what brand marketing and brand communications needs to be moving forward in what is a very different marketplace, a very disrupted, polarized, uncertain world with new technologies, with AI and our agents in our back pocket and what that looks like. A whole new way of interacting with clients and how clients should be thinking about interacting with their communities. It's really, really cool. I've been working on it for about 6 months now, just about to roll it out. So it's kind of an exciting new chapter for me at this stage of my career, bringing it all together, bringing it into the world. It's been a blast. I got to tell you, it's been a blast.
Interesting. Can you tell us what it is, or is it like top secret in development type stuff?
Top secret. No, actually, I can tell you a little bit about it. It's all about connectivity and brands being connected to the world in which they operate, not only in the world from a culture standpoint and understanding the cultural forces in which it operates, but also the communities it is trying to serve. So thinking beyond just target audience, which is typically how we think about who we serve, but actually the communities in which that target audience lives, works, thrives, shops, worships, and how you can really connect with them to customize an experience and then ultimately drive them to an action that you want them to take, whether that's to buy a product, make a referral, sign up for something, change their behavior, whatever it might be. We've never really looked at it from a marketing standpoint in its totality that way and how that all ties together in what is otherwise a very, as I mentioned, a very disrupted world, a world that is disconnected otherwise, that doesn't tailor experiences quite the way it needs to. Using technology to do that, using technology to customize that experience, using data to be able to connect with people like we've never been able to before, and also using generative AI to do that quickly and in an agile way like we've never been able to do before. Either we've talked about it, we've dreamt about it, we've always wondered how, and now we're able to how. We're at the how now, which is great.
Okay, interesting. I'm imagining what I think the thing is in practice that you're building. I mean, it feels like the inevitable reality is like that Minority Report where like you're being served whatever communication from whatever company or person that's AI, it's for you. Like the opposite is an email blast that goes to everyone, but now it's something that knows you, is written for you, is speaking to you directly at the time, that you're in, it knows what you're interested in. Is this the kind of stuff that you're working on?
That you are personally in need, though. It's sort of still on your terms, still when you're at a tension point where you need it, with a lot of human touch, with a lot of creativity. This is not replacing jobs. This is not replacing human touch. It's actually just making it much more interactive, much more kind of on their terms, on demand, when they need it most, in the community in which they're living, to serve the community, to be a part of the community, in probably a much more human functioning way than we imagined or feared it would be. And in a much more sort of holistically marketing way that I think as marketers, we always wanted it to be, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think for people in marketing will wrap their head around it. Can you give us an example of like, for a person who's a consumer that might be able to understand sort of how this world is going to look?
So it probably honestly doesn't look a whole lot more different necessarily. It just shows up a little bit differently. So for example, you're not going to get fed advertising that you don't want or need at a time when you're not thinking about it or wanting it, or that is disruptive to your day. You're going to get information served up in a way that is tailored to you, the way you think about it, the way you're living your life at a time in your day when you're receptive to it. So problem solving rather than selling, connecting with the community rather than just mass targeting, and connecting with them on an issue that they're having.
How does what you're working on help serve that goal?
So what I'm working on is a model and a framework that allows us to work with our clients to figure out whatever their version of that is. So how do you connect from a cultural standpoint with the community that solves one of their pain points, tension points, problem areas in a very unique way that then leads to a desired outcome that you're trying to achieve, but fundamentally solves a problem or adds value to their lives rather than just mass selling something to a blanket audience.
Okay. And so does that look like meeting with the client to sort of brainstorm ideas and then building out kind of a strategy?
Correct. And having this framework guide that brainstorming so that it's a guided journey of coming up with a great campaign idea.
Okay, well, this feels like a good segue, because what we didn't do is talk about what you actually are doing right now, like the company, the position, where you came from, who you are, what your story is, because you've got a great story. Can we do that? Do you want to give us the here's my line?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I'm currently in my current role. Last 5 months, I am the head of brand impact or brand marketing and communications at FleishmanHillard, which is one of the brand marketing communications agencies at Omnicom, which is a large global network of marketing and marketing services agencies globally. I was at another part of the Omnicom agency network before, so that's hence the moving over from one company to the other while still staying with the parent company. Have been with that parent company for about 4 years, have had a long career in marketing and marketing communications. Started out client-side marketing at Johnson & Johnson, and through the years have run almost every kind of advertising, promotion, digital agency discipline that there is, and have been in this particular discipline of communications for about 12 years now, and have always specialized in the brand side of the world, whether that's consumer brands or B2B brands, healthcare brands. It's my area of expertise and my passion area, I guess you could say.
Okay. And what draws you to do that? Because passion, like brands, like communication, like why do you love it?
I find it to be this incredible mix of art and science. The science part of it is the understanding behavior, using data to dig into a problem, understanding the psychology of choice, understanding the lives of people and what their needs are, combined with the art, which is the creativity of coming up with a really cool idea that will solve that problem, the really interesting campaign that will break through all the noise out there. We're inundated with, I think it's 72,000 messages a day the average person is inundated with. How do you possibly come up with something that somebody notices out of 72,000 messages? We spend, I think, 10 hours a day on social platforms or email or some sort of platform where we're getting stuff. How do you break through that? The art and creativity of that I find fascinating, combined with the science of doing it that's data-based and behaviorally based. There aren't a lot of careers and industries where you get to do that. And I find it fascinating. And it's changed so much I've been doing it for a long time. It's changed so much through the years, which keeps me so engaged, that when websites came and social media and now AI, I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing. Let's embrace it. Let's see what we can do with it. And now we're finally figuring out what to do with it. I find that so fascinating, the art and science of it,
Yeah.
the science of it, and then what can you artfully do with it? Not a lot of industries do you get to do that.
No, that's fair. And it's true. It's like, as you're saying it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I should think about that more often, because sometimes you're just caught in like doing, and making stuff and clients, and like you're a therapist and need a therapist at the same time, and it's chaos.
Right. So true. So true.
That it sounds so much better. So how do you think, because it's so top of mind for everyone, and I think there is a lot of, and I'm having a lot of these conversations where it's AI, like we are speaking to AI companies as clients that I think are doing good things. I'm also aware of all of the potential serious downfalls and scary things about AI. And I'm personally just trying to be like, look, let's wait and see that there's good and bad. And to all the way good or to go all the way bad seems a little maybe short-sighted, I guess, right now, all things considered, because it is happening, whether we like it or not, it seems like. And so I'm trying to take that approach. With what you guys are building, how are you going to keep that human touch? Like, where do you see the future of this that keeps humans like engaged?
Well, we've all gone through sort of the acceptance curve of AI. And I have a lot of friends in other industries that are using AI very differently than we are in our industry. When it first started becoming a bit of a reality more than just a rumor, I think we're all like, what is this? There was a wow factor of, wow, where is this going to go? We have no idea. What do you mean it'll do creative? What do you mean by that? And what do you mean it'll write a memo? What does that mean? We had no idea. We were all in this like wow factor. And then we kind of accepted the fact that it's here. It's here. It's a reality. We don't know how to use it yet. We don't know really what to do with it, but it's here, and we're starting to understand it taking shape, and we were dabbling. And literally probably in the last 8 months, certainly the last 7 months of this year, I think we're all now understanding how to use it and what to do. And we're realizing that it saves a lot of time, like understanding audiences, for example, and distilling information and being a bit predictive. But it's still about making us smarter, allowing us to use our brain on another level, allowing us to save some space in our brain for higher order thinking. Just like many other technological advances that have come through the years, social media was a great enhancement for how we connect with each other, market and connect with audiences. I mean, It was really scary at the time. Everybody said it's the end of the world. It's the end of human connectivity. No one will talk to each other ever again. And yeah, there were some major downsides. There continue to be some major downsides for sure.
It feels like, social media is a good comparison because there are so many downsides. And also
100%.
The opportunities of people creating careers on social media, good or bad, whether it's an influencer just showing you what they're drinking their coffee, and for some reason they're able to make $1 million a month doing that. And also a lot of connection community careers have been built out of that and that ability. And before that existed, your options were less.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And so we have this new tool that is scary and gonna mess things up. And also create all of these other opportunities for people who don't want that 9-to-5 life, maybe to have career.
New careers, new entrepreneurial opportunities, new ways of connection. It'll eliminate others. Huge watch outs, for sure. Huge watch outs, just like in social media. But that's part of the learning curve of it, for sure. I was literally, we're all advancing on our own learning curve. I was researching something the other day for some client work, and I had AI tabulate a comparison chart between these two organizations, and it did a beautiful job of the two organizations. And then I couldn't remember who the CEO was of this one company. So I'm like, who's the CEO of blah, blah, blah? And because I had been inputting all this information, it came back and said, Jim Joseph is the CEO of. I'm like, well, see, there you go, right there. Now, if I hadn't been tabulating that and somebody else was, now that's now in the universe there that Jim Joseph is the CEO. So that's going to pop up for somebody. And that's the danger, and you have to just understand that. And just like we understand the dangers of social media, and we have to be mindful of it and understand it.
The reality is a lot of people won't, and that is a reality. And also, the thing is a tool, and if you're interested in using it, there's a lot of potential benefits also,
Yeah. for sure.
I'd love to talk more about you and your past, your book that you wrote.
So I've written a couple marketing books, sort of coinciding with my career. First one I wrote 15 years ago. Gosh, just realizing that was a long time ago. And then I also wrote a book about fatherhood, my journey as a dad, as a gay dad, and at the time, a single gay dad, and the journey of what that felt like at a time when there were no other people like that were visible, certainly, or talking about it or public about it, and the prejudice and the stigma and what that all looked like. And I wrote it after my kids graduated from high school. I waited until they were adults, if you will. And I wrote it as a way to share my story, because I feel really strongly that everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own struggles. And the one universal truth that I've heard over and over and over again, no matter what that story is that everybody feels like they're the only one going through it. And that is one huge benefit of social media, is that you can find communities of people that have very shared experiences. That was impossible back in the day when I was going through it. There was no social media. I couldn't find anybody like me at all. So by sharing our stories, we're able to show people, regardless of what they're going through, that you're not alone. And remarkably, regardless of the struggle that you go through, the emotions and the journeys are actually quite similar. The human experience is remarkably similar from struggle to struggle. Not in every single case. There are certainly struggles that are far more severe, without a doubt. But a lot of the emotional journeys of struggles are very similar. And that's something I learned in the response I got to my book, because I just assumed that I would get readership and response from other gay dads. I figured that would be the audience. And I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I wrote the book not to sell books, but just to share my story and to sort of make connections to people, and honestly, just to sort of help people. But I was overwhelmed, especially right at the very beginning. The comments and responses I got from straight dads, stay-at-home moms, working moms who felt like they were struggling because they weren't home with their kids. Unbelievable commonalities in the human experience, regardless of what the actual specifics were. And somebody actually wrote, I'll never forget this, but the book gets actually very detailed about a lot of the day-to-day life of what it's like to be a gay dad with two kids, because it's exactly the same as if I was straight. And that's sort of the point. And sort of the rituals we created, and the holidays, and, sort of all the traditions we created. And somebody actually wrote in one of the reviews, generally when you're finding common bonds, you find them at a very high level. And in this book, actually, the common bonds were in the details. The way you bake a cake, or the way you decorate a Christmas tree, or the way you walk your dog, which I found so, I guess in a way it's why I wrote it, but I actually learned something in return as a result. That the human experience is so common, regardless of whatever your own situation or struggle is.
Yeah, it's so cool and brave. I mean, especially at the time, was that scary? Like, was that terrifying for you, or were you just ready? How did you feel?
Well, so when I wrote the book, I got talked into writing it by a friend of mine, who she kept calling it the other book, because I'd already written a marketing book. And then I actually wrote 2 sequels to that marketing book. They were small sequels to it. And she's like, it's time that you write the other book. And I was like, she's like, no one's ever written this. It's a story that has to be told. At that point, this was 2015. At that point, a lot of gay men and women were having children. It was becoming much more open and a part of society. People need to hear the story. They need to understand, like, you need to tell the story. So I got a publisher to agree to publish it, and I started writing it, and I got like 3 or 4 chapters into it, and I said, no, I'm not gonna write this. And because it got really personal really fast. As soon as I started writing, I realized, like, what am I doing? I'm putting this on paper.
Yeah.
This is way too much.
Yeah.
And she talked me into just finishing it. So I wrote a couple more chapters, and I said, no, I'm not going to do this. And the publisher said, can I just read I wrote like 5 chapters. Can I just read the chapters. So I sent them to the publisher, and the publisher was like, I'm sorry, you are publishing this book. Like, you have an obligation to publish it. Like, I'm not going to give you a guilt trip. He literally said that, but you are publishing this book. And I said, okay, well, I'll make a deal with you. I'll write it and then I'll decide. So I wrote it. And the whole time I'm writing it, I had my mother-in-law, my husband's mother, read it because she's a prolific reader. And I'm like, this has to be the best written book you've ever read in your entire life. Like, if I'm going to put this out there, it has to be so well written that it's above reproach. Like, nobody can read this and go, oh my God, this guy cannot write himself out of a paper bag. And so I finished writing it. I had her read it. I had 3 other people read it. And they were like, I couldn't put it down. Like, I literally, like, they called me the next day and they're like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm like, I just gave it to you yesterday. And they're like, we couldn't put it down. Oh, I gave it to 4 people. And they were all like, we couldn't put it down. Like, we started reading it and we could not put it down. Like, one person spent the whole night reading it. One person stayed home from work and read it. Like, they could not put it down. And they're like, it's so good. And I'm like, well, that's because you know me. Like, I should have known better than to give it to people I know. So I sent it to the publisher and he was like, same thing. He gave it to 3 or 4 friends. They all said, we couldn't put it down. And I was like, okay, great. That was really fun. I'm not going to publish it. I'm not going to. Long story short, I got talked into publishing it for all the reasons about like sharing your story. It'll help people. And I finally said, all it's going to take is for one person to just tell me it helped them and I'll be fine. And literally within the first week, I had all these reviews and everyone said, I read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. And then like literally the 3rd or 4th day, a gay dad wrote on Facebook, this book just saved my life. And I was like, okay, I'm done.
You did it.
I did it. I don't even know how many books. I don't know how many. I have no idea. I never check. Because I don't care.
Yeah.
I read the reviews. I care about the reviews, but I don't care about sales.
I can understand that. So what do you get it? What's the through line, but something like that versus the marketing books that you've written? Obvious differences, but what was the thing that you're finding that people were connecting with? That specific, is it always other gay dads that are connecting with it? Is it just everybody finds something that they can resonate with? Like, what's the?
Yeah, I think everybody found something they could resonate with. I even had somebody wrote like they're a fur parent. Like, they found connections, like their kids are dogs. Like, it's like the commonality of the parental experience and some of the traumas of being a parent and the sacrifices that you make, not only to be a parent and have a career, but also the sacrifices you make being a parent to have a career. I examined that in the book too. Like, I talk about how on any given day, you can't be both. You can't be a great dad and a great boss at work. You can't do both. Like, today I was a great dad. Like, I had to let a few things slip at work. And today I was great at work. And guess what? I didn't help the kids with their homework. I couldn't get to it. That's just how it works. You can't do everything all the time. Some days you can. There are those days where like, wow, today I was superhuman. That was like, today was a red letter day. I was superhuman.
Right.
That's not going to happen every day. And the expectation that will is it's just not realistic. If you're a single parent, which I was for a while, if you're a coupled parent, if you're whatever you are, even if you're and my husband was a stay-at-home dad for a number of years, he even talked about it. Like, he's dedicated being home and he's like, I couldn't get to everything today. Okay, who cares? So you didn't get to everything. Like,
yeah,
the world goes on,
Maybe AI will help with that. Maybe that would be the thing that fixes. Now you can do both.
Yeah.
I definitely resonate with what you were saying too about not releasing it, because one of the things that has made this podcast take so long is that feeling of like, what am I doing? Like, you want to experience a unique kind of self-loathing, watch yourself on a podcast every day over and over to different people. And it's like imposter syndrome, anxiety.
Are people gonna care? Are they gonna think that you have the credibility?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you feeling those things when you were?
Yeah. All of the above. And in fact, even several times since, I've said to myself, did that book really need to be out there in the public? Did I really need to do that? And then I think about everything going on in the world right now, and we're going backwards on so many things. I'm like, yeah, it does need to be out there. We all need to put it out there to be heard and represented, and make sure that our voices are shared, because we got to make sure that we're heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, we should. And it, despite the fact that I just said that book had to be perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect, actually. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've since edited myself that way.
Yeah. Who is she? Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. Right. That was one of the things that like massively helped. Like, I never knew that I was a perfectionist until I read that book.
I think one of the things that I learned through the years, having been married to a woman, having started out my career presenting as a straight white male, presenting in a very privileged class as a result, and then realizing that that's not what I was or what I wanted, and then coming out, and then suddenly overnight losing a lot of what we now call privilege, and having to worry about losing my job, losing my clients, losing my children, literally overnight, being afraid to talk about it. One of the worst things that someone would ask me on a Monday was, so how was your weekend? That was a paralyzing question. How was your weekend? Because I couldn't answer that. Or, so what does your wife do? Well, first of all, I don't have a wife. Second of all, my wife, her name is Christopher. I couldn't answer those questions, the paralyzing questions. But I think through the years, and to this day, it still paralyzes me sometimes when I get a client who I don't know says to me, so what does your wife do? I literally have to gulp and like, okay, can I be transparent or not? Or do I need to cover this up here? But what I think I've learned through the years is just be yourself, show up who you are, and be who you are. And yeah, maybe you have to deal with the consequences of that, maybe, depending on where you live, depending on where you work. But the consequences of that are better than not being who you are and not showing up as your true being. Because the consequences of not showing up as your true being are far greater than whatever you might have to deal with when you do show up as yourself, and whatever you might have to deal with verbally or whatever. That's something I've learned through the years. And even now, in a very tough environment that we're living in, just be who you are.
Yeah. Does it feel tougher for you, the reality of like the day to day? Does it feel more like it's just online and it's just out there, or are you feeling?
I don't know that I am personally feeling it, because I'm in a place where I'm so well established at work and in my own life. I also live in New York. I'm in a place where I don't care, quite honestly, but I suffer because I see a lot of other people suffering and dealing with the consequences of it. That's what bothers me. I don't put myself in places where I'm not safe. I don't work in a place where I'm not safe. I'm not surrounded by people where I'm not going to be safe. But that's not true of everybody. And that's certainly not true of younger people who are coming up in their careers, or finding a place to live, or trying to make a network of friends. They're not in the place where I am, having lived for decades now. And that's what's hard. I would have thought by now we would be in a place where they don't have to go through that, which is what I went through when I was their age. Unfortunately, I would have hoped we'd be past that.
Yeah, same. Okay. We got deep. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for just being open and honest and going with the flow here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Always.
I love it.
If you ever want to do it again, you're always welcome.
For sure.